Have you ever been so absolutely sure you were right about something, only to find out you were spectacularly, completely wrong? Well, today we're going to unpack the science of learning through a fascinating story about a brilliant mind, a catastrophic failure, and this incredible discovery that the real secret to intelligence isn't about being right. It's about what you do when you get it wrong. So, let's dive in and meet our main character, Dr. Elias Thorne. This quote, it just says it all, right? He's the architect of this insanely powerful AI called Aegis, and to him, the messy, unpredictable world is just a bunch of data points waiting to be perfectly calculated. For a guy like Thorne, being certain isn't just his job, it's who he is. All right, so first up, we need to understand the world Dr. Thorne built for himself. It's a world where being right is like living in a fortress, and any hint of doubt is treated like a threat to the entire kingdom. See, Thorne isn't just some data scientist. People call him the Oracle of Apex. His AI, Aegis, is so good at predicting things that he started to believe he's basically infallible himself. To him, his intellect isn't a tool to explore the world, it's a weapon to prove he's right, every single time. And he's built this massive psychological fortress around that belief. Now, this all comes down to a really interesting cognitive bias that affects all of us, called the illusion of explanatory depth. It's that feeling you have when you think you know how a zipper works, but when you actually have to explain it, you realize you don't. For Thorne, because his AI has been so successful in the past, he's fallen into the trap of believing he understands the entire global economy perfectly. He thinks past success guarantees future perfection. But as you might imagine, this perfect fortress of certainty, it's about to have a very, very bad day. Let's see what happens when the perfect prediction engine suddenly isn't. And man, when it goes wrong fast. Aegis makes this huge prediction, everyone bets the farm on it, and then nothing. The prediction is catastrophically wrong. In just 48 hours, hundreds of millions of dollars are gone. The perfect engine has failed, and Thorne's whole reality just gets shattered. As Thorne is staring at all these flashing red screens showing failure, he feels this cold, alien sensation. That, right there, is cognitive dissonance. It's this agonizing, gut-wrenching feeling you get when a core belief, like my AI is perfect, or I am always right, slams head-on into a reality that screams, you are wrong. It literally feels like your brain is at war with itself. So how does his brain handle that pain? Does he look at the evidence and update his beliefs? Nope, not a chance. His very first instinct is to protect the belief. He immediately starts making excuses. The model wasn't wrong, the data was wrong. He's bending reality to fit his worldview instead of changing his worldview to fit reality. So he's defeated, he's desperate, and his whole project is on the line. But he's about to get an intervention from a very unlikely place, one that is going to completely flip his entire understanding of what it means to be intelligent. And in walks Dr. Amina Vance. She's a behavioral scientist who works in the basement lab, and she is everything Thorne is not. He lives in his corner office seeking certainty. She lives in a lab that celebrates uncertainty. He sees intellect as a weapon. She sees it as a tool for exploration. They are polar opposites. And Amina introduces Thorne to this game-changing idea, intellectual humility. It's not about thinking less of yourself, it's about this radical act of detaching your ego from your ideas. Once an idea isn't you, you can look at it, test it, and even throw it away if it's wrong, without feeling like you personally have failed. And here's the science behind it, which is so cool. Our brains are basically prediction machines. You walk down the stairs, and your brain is constantly predicting where the next step is. If it's right, step, 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 no big deal. But what happens when you think there's one more step and there isn't? That jolt? That's a prediction error. That mismatch triggers a little neurological flare in your brain, a shot of chemicals like dopamine that basically screams, hey, pay attention, your map of the world is wrong, update it. And this insight from Amina just changes everything for Thorne. Being wrong isn't a failure. It isn't a moral flaw. It's literally the biological switch that flips on the learning process. The very thing he feared his entire life, being wrong, was the one thing that could have made him smarter. His fear was preventing him from learning. So armed with this totally new and revolutionary idea, Thorne starts the incredibly difficult, but also liberating process of rebuilding everything. Not just his AI, but himself. And where does it start? It starts with 3 of the hardest words to say in any language. I was wrong. The moment he says that to his team, he's dropping that heavy suit of armor, that ego, and for the first time, he's open to actually building something new. He doesn't just patch the old AI. Nope, he tears it down to the studs. The old Aegis was an oracle, designed to give one certain answer. The new AI, which they call Seeker, is an explorer. It's designed to embrace uncertainty, to map out probabilities instead of declaring a single future. It's a fundamental shift in philosophy. And this isn't just some abstract idea. They build real, practical tools around it. The team starts a failure log, where they actually celebrate what went wrong each day. They start treating their beliefs not as facts set in stone, but as probabilities that are always being updated. They even program the AI with synthetic doubt, teaching it to constantly question itself and actively hunt for evidence that proves its own conclusions wrong. So, what's the payoff for all this? What happens when you shift from desperately needing certainty to embracing humility? Let's see what this new explorer's mindset really means. When Thorne goes back to the board, he tells them this. He says, knowing what you don't know is the only way to survive. And that's the big twist. The new AI, Seeker, is more powerful not because it's always right, but because it's acutely aware of when it might be wrong. And in a world that changes as fast as ours, that adaptability is way more valuable than arrogance. This quote becomes Elias's new motto. The rigid world of certainty he used to live in, it was sterile. Nothing new could grow there. But he finally learned that the messy, uncertain, and sometimes uncomfortable space of doubt, that's where all the growth, all the truth, and all the new ideas actually come from. And that brings it all back to a really crucial question for every single one of us. In our work, in our lives, in our own beliefs, are we building a fortress to defend what we already think we know? Or are we charting a map we are willing to constantly redraw and update, especially when we find evidence that our old map was wrong? Because ultimately, Thorne's journey reveals this profound and beautiful truth. The moment he surrendered his desperate need to be right, he unlocked the true superpower of intelligence, the infinite capacity to learn, to adapt, and to grow. Because being wrong isn't the opposite of being smart. It's the only path to getting smarter.
Please like and subscribe.